Oh, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Soto here with the Autumn Windbags. Back at you again. Raider Nation, stand up. You know how we do. All right. So, I got to start off with this. This is before the like, comment, and subscribe thing, okay? I haven't been on as often as I said I would. I had some family business to take care of. There was a death in the family, and it was pretty rough. So, but I'm back. RJ's been traveling around the world doing his UFC thing. I've been handling family business. Rory is pretty much useless without RJ or myself as far as coming online. But now I'm back. Had a couple of shots of screwball in me. Ready to have a good show today. As we get started, everybody, please make sure like, comment, and subscribe. You know it helps us out a lot. Whatever you feel about our content, excuse me, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you like it but you disagree, whether you don't like it but you agree, whatever. I try to have my opinion and stick to it and tell you my truth because I want to get some interaction from you guys. The last thing I want is you guys to think, oh, another ho-hum show. I've heard this a million times already. Not what we're looking for here at the Autumn Windbags. I want to give you what you're looking for. I want to give stimulating conversation here about your Raiders, about my Raiders, about our Raiders all day, every day. Also, hit that little notification button down there. What that does is it lets you know whenever I go live, whenever RJ goes live, whenever we drop a new video, no matter what, you guys get to know right away, and you don't miss a thing. You're one of the first to know. All right. So, training camp started last week, and Rory and I did a show. It was the first show that I headlined as far as a recorded show in quite some time. And, it was a little bit different. RJ is usually the one that does all the lead-ins and all that stuff. And I tried to tee up my boy Rory, and he did a good job. So hopefully he can join us a little bit more often coming in the future. Because, that guy can cuss like a sailor and still sound like a saint. That freaking Queen's English. So one of the things that we talked about on last week's show during the presser was Denzel Perryman and Denzel Perryman's contract. Denzel Perryman was kind of a late throw-in addition. We just needed some linebacker depth last year. And we're like, he's someone who was familiar with the system. He was familiar with Gus Bradley. He was, he played for him with the Chargers. And he was injured most of training camp last season with the Panthers. So we flip a 5th-round pick, I think it was, to the Panthers, and we get Denzel Perryman back. And wow, was that a good trade for us. He ended up being our starting linebacker. He led the team in tackles, made the Pro Bowl. Freaking funny guy. That beanie, it's got to smell like hot ass. He's putting it on in the Vegas summer. But, he did earn himself a new contract. So when he was asked during his presser about his contract, he said, I was ready for it. My agent's handling all that. I just want to play football. And that really goes to show you what kind of locker room we have. If anyone should be bitching and complaining and moaning about their contract, it's time for Denzel Perryman. He's on his last year. He really did earn an extension. He earned a new contract with his play. But he's not bitching about it. He knows it's going to get handled. And that's really how the front office sets you at ease, right? It's not a front office that's going to manufacture a blow up during practice with Antonio Brown. I'm not excusing Antonio Brown any of his antics, but there was some talk about his Mayock's kerfuffle and during training camp was a little bit kind of contrived on Mayock's end. Now, not sure how much truth is to that, but if you're a Denzel Perryman and you talk with a Dave Ziegler or a Champ, right? And they're like, hey, what's up with my new contract? And say, look, we want to keep you. You're one of our priorities. Let's work something out, but let's just keep playing. We're going to work something out for you. You're in our long-term plans. That's something you have to take into account. And if you trust the guy, if you trust the front office, then, you can feel a little bit easier about going out there and playing. So that's what happened with Denzel Perryman. On the other end, there's Darren Waller. One of the things about Darren Waller that I think is a little bit underappreciated or undervalued right now, or under talked about, is the fact that he's 29 years old. He's getting up there in age. Now, I will say this. Someone who's an elite athlete, they can go a little bit further in their career, especially someone who with that size, height, weight, speed combination that Waller has. He's a freak athlete. He's not slowing down unless he doesn't come back fully from his injury. Now, that knee injury, that IT band injury, we talked about it last year. If you heard the IT band injury, think of that ligament that runs down from your hip to your knee on the outside of your thigh. Think of like when you get a Charlie horse. That's usually where you get hit, in the IT band, in that area. If you watch like UFC or Muay Thai kickboxing or something like that, the leg kicks, that's what you want to attack. You want to attack that IT band because there's so much connective tissue that runs through that IT band, and it can really just deaden your leg, basically. It can just deaden your whole entire leg. So if you have an injury to that, it could affect a lot of different areas. Now, from what I understand, the injury was a little bit lower on his leg, closer to his knee, which was created some, not just the IT band injury, but kind of a knee injury, and also may have contributed to some back issues as well. Normally, players heading into their 30s, when they get injured, don't get healthier. Best case scenario, they continue with their pre-injury or their pre-latest injury history. In Darren Waller's case, his pre-latest injury history was no injury history, right? That's in his favor. Also in his favor is he's in the offense now with Josh McDaniels, who loves throwing the tight ends. He even said so earlier, he being Darren Waller, pronouns, pal. Darren Waller said that a tight end in this new NFL can definitely be the focal point, which is going to be in Kansas City. Like, tight end who would remain nameless was probably going to be the focal point of that offense. So Darren Waller can be the focus of this offense. That's another point on his side. So right now you have age, injury, coming off of injury on the negative. You have his coach and his scheme and his history with tight ends, and the fact that another team in his division is using a tight end as a primary weapon. That's a positive for him. But here's the rub. Darren Waller has 2 years left on his contract. Now, thankful for us and thank God for all Raider fans out there, Darren Waller said he was not going to hold out. He was asked by reporters about his contract, and let's take a look at his contract real quick. Darren Waller has 2 years left on his contract for $12.5 million. Now, that's not 12.5 a year. That's 12.5 total, okay? So he's got 7.5 coming in base salary this year in 2022, and then 2023 he has $5 million base salary, just the way the contract worked out. This year, at 7.5 mil, he is the 17th highest paid quarterback. Probably a top 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top 4, 3, 4 of tight ends as ability wise. So, what to do with Darren Waller? It's a conundrum, because you do want to be known as a front office that rewards your own, right? That way you can kind of get people who are due deals that maybe wait a little bit longer for them and don't hold your head to the fire, you know what I'm saying? But you got to be smart about it too. Darren Waller coming off an injury. I don't know, man. Here's my thoughts. And I've talked about this with RJ, and I don't think he agrees. I know Rory for a fact doesn't agree. I don't know. Rory and RJ want us to pay all these guys all this money. It's like, dude, you got to be smart about it. No matter how Darren Waller performs this year, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be the highest paid tight end in the NFL next year. Whether they sign him this year or they sign him after the season for next year. Nobody out there is going to get paid even close to. There's nobody out there who's up to get paid, getting close to the $15 million a year that George Kittle is making with the 49ers. So, if no one's going to push that mark, there's no reason to pay him now if you don't have to. He's 2 years left in his contract. Whether he's a nominal representation of who Waller was in previous seasons before he got injured, you still want to reward him for that. You still, hey, he's coming back from injury, he's going to be better, whatever, blah, 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 new system, growing pains, right? You can pay him 15.25, 15.3, 15.4, even 15.5. Okay. If he balls out, you still offer him 15.5, maybe even 16-ish, closer to 16 a year for 3-4 years, maybe probably 3 years. And he's still making more than Kittle. I don't think that anyone's going to move that needle. I'm not sure that anyone really... For me, it seems like the fans are a lot more in a rush to extend Waller because maybe they feel that he might hold out next year. But next year is the year that you should re-sign him. And given the production that he's had and the system that he's going to be in and the head coach and offensive coordinator that he's going to have good numbers. But again, whether he has an okay year, a bounce back year, fucking lights out year, the difference isn't going to be too much as far as how much he's going to get paid. So that's my take on Darren Waller's contract status. One of the issues that I've had, and some of the things that we've talked about with RG, put some pants on. I know for a fact you're not wearing pants. One of the things that has irked me so much about Derek Carr in the past is I know in his mind he feels there's a better way, especially when he was dealing with John Gruden. And he just wouldn't go against Gruden's coaching. He was kind of like either brainwashed or whatever. Do as I say, do as I say, do as I say. But when you're on the field and you see things happening, it's different than when you're up in the booth and looking at stuff. Like you feel it, what's going on the field, and you feel that you can do certain things. And I used Rich Gannon as an example because Rich Gannon and John Gruden used to get in screaming matches on the sidelines. And they weren't fighting because they were angry with each other. They were just both two headstrong guys that wanted to get their point across. I wanted to see more of that from Derek Carr. This last week, a couple days ago, actually, we saw that from Derek Carr when talking to the media. Derek Carr was talking about last season, how tumultuous it was, and it was a lot to go through, and how it galvanized the team. And again, he's not buying into the hype like no one else was and the pressers about how that is going to strengthen us for this year. It's more so, it just shows us that we can do anything when we work together, right? And that it's not about talking about people being against us, or no, we're not going to talk about people. We have an over under from Vegas of 8.5 wins and stuff like that. Like, we put that to the side. Well, Paul Gutierrez from ESPN, the ESPN Raiders beat writer, asked Derek Carr, well, why are you talking about it then? Why do you keep bringing it up? Derek Carr snapped back. Derek Carr told him, well, because I'm the leader of this team, and I'm telling you what I told my team. And, Paul Gutierrez, from what I heard, kind of scoffed at what Derek Carr was saying, and Derek Carr snapped back. Talking about he didn't appreciate the attitude. He just toned it down a little bit. And surprisingly, RJ was not about this. He really thought it was a waste of time. It was a waste of just pointless to do. And, I think that's kind of strange coming from him because he talks about how players and coaches talk to their teammates through the media. And I think Derek Carr talked to his team in that exchange with Paul Gutierrez through the media for his teammates. We have that edge now. We have that attitude now that we're not going to let people push us around. We're not going to just, oh, shucks, gee wilkers. We're just going to go out there and give it the old college try. Like, no, that's not who we are. We know we're good. We're not buying into the hype, but we know we're good. And we also know we have to work extremely hard to get past where we got to last year. So I'm all about it, man. I'm all about Derek Carr. Show him a little passion, show him a little fire, and show him a little attitude. No, hey, you can't just push me around. I know I'm a nice guy and everything, but you're not just gonna sit here and goat me and bait me and say, just troll me basically to my face at a presser. The leader does that. The leader shows. He drops down the gauntlet. Says, "This is how we're going to act. We're going to be confident. We're going to be hardworking. We're going to pull together, and we're not going to let anyone else give us any shit." So I love it, man. I love it. So Carr showing a little fire is something that I really think is going to help moving forward. There's those times in those games where Carr, has fallen apart a little bit, and it hasn't been always the best competition. So Rory said it in the last show last week. The Raiders were the team in the NFL that won the most games as an underdog. And honestly, we've been pretty good as an underdog. Like that's when everyone counts us out, we come up there and we get up by our bootstraps and we scrounge out some wins. When we've had problems when we're supposed to win, like against the Bears and the Giants, those type of teams last year when we had that losing streak, we were losing to teams that we had no business losing to. That's always been the issue with us. When we get a little hype behind us, we get a little pat on the back. We start off 6-4, we start off 6-5, we start off 7-4 or whatever, and then we take a shit at the end of the year because we start buying our own hype and just it doesn't work out for us in the end. You can be confident, but know that the work needs to get done and that no one's going to give you anything in the NFL. I like the confidence. I like the fire. So, Derek Carr, good job. I'm coming around. Let's see the stats, okay? One funny thing is someone else who thinks very highly of Derek Carr is Davante Adams. Now, Davante Adams was talked about his transition going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. And the way the question was framed, it was like, okay, you're going from Aaron Rodgers, who's up here, to Derek Carr, who's way down here. And Adams was asked about his production, his numbers, and how that would be a difference, even though, you played with Derek Carr in college, you throw to each other every offseason, stuff like that. Well, what would the adjustment be like? Davante Adams said this: anytime you change quarterbacks from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. So, in essence, he called Derek Carr a Hall of Fame quarterback. The next day, he kind of backtracked a little bit, and he clarified. Adams clarified by saying this: but what I meant to say was, even if you go from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, it's an adjustment. Okay, this is not bash on anyone time. And I know whenever Derek Carr comes up, people like to turn their ears off and turn their brains off and just look for something negative and jump all over it. By no means, in any stretch of the imagination, right now, is Derek Carr a Hall of Fame quarterback. Not even close. As a matter of fact, Derek Carr would have to have like an epic Kurt Warner-esque type comeback from the career he's had up to now to maybe another 5 years, 4 years. This next 4 years got to be sweet tits for him to be even thought of as a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm thinking to myself, what does Derek Carr have to do to be considered a Hall of Fame quarterback? I think these next 3 to 5 years, if he plays that long, I'm thinking like that's probably 3 to 5 years. Carr's got to be a top 5 quarterback, hands down. He's got to be one of the guys, right? He also needs to win a Super Bowl, maybe even 2. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm not saying that he's not a winning quarterback. What I'm saying is he's hung a lot of losses on that L column, man. And his numbers, although he does have a lot of yards and his completion percentage is high, his touchdown to interception ratio is not great. I think he's only thrown over 30 touchdowns once in his career. In a passing league, you got to be able to fling that skin, baby. You got to be able to throw touchdowns. So these next few years are going to be a huge tell sign. I will say for right now, I don't think anyone out there, and I'm not talking about talent. It's not about talent. Hall of Fame is about numbers. It's about your impact to the league, not just to a team. I don't think anyone can say Derek Carr is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Can he be? Could he have been in a different situation? Possibly. But right now, where he stands, no. He can do it, but he's got to start winning right now. He's got to start flipping around those numbers right this second. All right. I'm not ashamed to say it. I was the most enthusiastic about the Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler pairing coming to Las Vegas for our Raiders. The reason being is, I talk a lot of crap and, I may not sound very professional at times, but I've worked in a lot of professional environments, high-end professional environments. I have my own company that work with professional environments. And I know when leadership coming into the building, I know what it sounds like, what it should and shouldn't sound like. Case in point, recently we had, there was a case when someone came in, it was a new hire, came in with a lot of experience, and the position called for the person to wear a lot of hats, fill out a lot of different roles. Some are more traditional office roles, some weren't. And I can tell that this person didn't want to do the maybe more non-traditional office stuff and was trying to push it on to other people. And sure enough, after a couple of weeks, a lot of the work that was maybe not so office work related started to fall by the wayside. And this person was let go. So you can, I have this ability because I've gone through so many mergers, and I've gone through so many different CEOs and CFOs and directors and all this stuff. When you hear someone talk, you can hear double talk, and then you can hear definite, this is what I'm going to do type talk. And when you get that kind of wishy-washy 50-50 type talk, no bueno. Josh McDaniels didn't come out and say it, but he didn't beat around the bush. He did admit that he made a lot of mistakes in his past and that he was trying to learn from them. He didn't say how, he didn't say why, he didn't say when he was going to learn from them or how it was going to result, but he did say he did learn. That was a big difference from the man that we saw 10 years ago with Denver. Okay. Peter King recently tweeted about Josh McDaniels, and he's talking like he's a changed man. Josh McDaniels was quoted as saying, "The vibe around here is one I should create. It's not one I should mimic." Here's why that's important. When you mimic something, you're not going to be better than, even if you're more popular. For example, if you're, like Harry Carey, right? Harry Carey, the legendary play-by-play announcer for the Chicago Cubs. Usually sauced up most of the time. Had this weird lisp, this weird freaking cadence and delivery. He was beloved by all. Now, Will Ferrell on Saturday Night Live did a parody of Harry Carey, and it was funnier than Harry Carey was normally. It was really funny, but it wouldn't have been as good if he went out there and tried to be Harry Carey for real and call the game as his version of Harry Carey. His work wouldn't have been as good because it was kind of an over the top parody. You could tell he was forcing stuff like that. That's like it is with anything. Okay, that's kind of the best example I can think of. So when Josh McDaniels comes in to Denver, ships out Cutler, his starting quarterback, drafts the hell's his name? Someone help me out here. This dude from Florida. I forgot his name. I'm zoning out. But drafts that kid from Florida and has to basically write a brand new offense for him. Successful in the beginning, but since his offense is limited because his quarterback is limited, the opposing defenses are going to catch up to him. And there you go. Tried to be somebody he wasn't, tried to kind of throw his weight around, throw his muscle around, and people saw right through it after a while. Okay. Now, Belichick's disciples haven't always been the most successful as head coaches. There's a lot of reasons for that. Most of the time, these disciples are first-time head coaches leaving Belichick, right? Not many coaches are really successful being first-time head coaches in the NFL. It happens, but it's definitely not a 50-50. It's less than 50-50. Okay. McDaniels comes back. He goes back to the Patriots after washing out with Denver. He is now seeing Bill Belichick coach through Tim Tebow was his name. Someone wrote it down, but Tim Tebow. So McDaniels looks through the eyes of Belichick. He sees not just what he's doing, but through his eyes because he's been there. He's been the head coach. So now things are a little bit different now. It makes a little bit more sense. Stays a long time when he gets back. He stays about 8 years, I think, the last time when he came back. He stayed about 8 years. Learns a lot. Learns a lot of new systems. He had Tom Brady. Then he had Jimmy Garoppolo for a little while. Then he had, Jacoby Brissett. And then he had Cam Newton. And he had Mac Jones. Like, he's had a lot of guys playing that position, and they've always been successful. So he knows that I can be successful in this league if I build the right environment. And that's what he's saying here, man. The second time around as a coach, it's a big deal. There are no real unknowns. Like, you've already done this stuff before. Being a coordinator, yes, you're the next step up to you're one step away, from being a head coach, but you're not the head coach, and that's a big step. So once you fill those shoes, you're kind of worn in already, right? You're not going to be squeaking and hurting your feet as much. Also, it's a lot easier to be a head coach at a place that you're brand new when you come over with a longtime college friend and Dave Ziegler, who is you don't have to talk to Dave Ziegler and explain the culture you're trying to build with the Raiders because you know the culture and how it was built with the Patriots. Is it going to be exactly the same? No, and it shouldn't be because McDaniels and Ziegler are different people. But they know the basics of what needs to be built upon in order for this franchise to go where it needs to go, where they want it to go. So that's why I always thought that Josh McDaniels was going to be a lot better hire than, let's say, RJ, who was kind of lukewarm, and Rory, who's, pretty much poo-pooed this whole thing. And let's see what we got going here in the comment section. T-Blow. Let's see here. Make this his prove it year and give him an extension. I think you're talking about Waller, and I agree. Waller's proved a lot. Waller has proved that he is one of the elite tight ends of the league, that he can carry an offense. What he hasn't proven is that he can come back from injury. So he was injured last year. He came back maybe a little bit too soon because he wanted to play. Wasn't nearly the type of player that he should have been when he came back. That's why, a lot of the targets went to Hummer and Zay Jones. So I agree. I think this is more of I wouldn't necessarily call it a prove it year, I would call it more a bounce back year. Give you an opportunity to bounce back from this injury. I don't think Waller has anything to prove. I just think it's a show it year. Show me that you're healthy, and we can go from there. See how it works. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. That's my time for today. Make sure everybody like, comment, subscribe. You know we love you guys. Hit that notification button to make sure that you're aware when RJ or I go live or when we drop a new video, okay? All right, guys. See you later. Peace.